welcome back to another episode of Endurance Icons. We're super pumped to have on the show today Lisa Becharas, a pro triathlete from the Real Triathlon squad. So I believe she would be the third member of RTS we've had on. We've already had Jackson and Tamara, two of our most listened to episodes. So you got some big shoes to fill today, Lisa. But we're super pumped to chat to you today. How's it going?
Thank you. Thanks for having me. I'm super excited to be here. I was really excited when you guys reached out to me to be on the podcast. But yeah, things are going great. I'm happy because it's finally sunny and warm in Boulder, Colorado. So no complaints from me right here.
Love it. How long have you been based out of Boulder for?
Since it's about 5.5 years now. I had a little 8-month kind of living in a van, traveling for a company I worked for, vacation. I'll use that term lightly, but yeah, so about 5.5 years total.
Nice. Jumping on that van comment a little bit there. Where were some of the spots you were kind of bouncing around to on that journey?
Yeah, so I was working most of those Ironman expos and some Spartan race expos. So I was kind of in that circus of people who would just migrate from race to race. But I was mostly West Coast based because I don't really like the East Coast as much. No offense. Or maybe
None taken, Lisa.
maybe I need to spend more time out there to appreciate it a little bit more. But yeah, a lot of California, Arizona, was up in Coeur d'Alene. Yeah, so kind of all that, like those Western states. It was beautiful.
Nice. And are you loving the Boulder life? Obviously, you've been there for 5.5 years. So are you loving it out there? I know the guests we've had on before have all said just like the mecca of like training out there. So I'm assuming you're seeing it as the same.
Yeah, I mean, I do. I love a lot of aspects about Boulder. Like, I don't think you can beat Boulder riding in the summer and the fall. I think it's one of the best places in the world to ride, just because you have flats and you have mountains and you have a plethora of super talented individuals like within a 5-mile radius of you. But I also think that it can get a little overwhelming sometimes. So I have a boyfriend and he lives up in Fort Collins, which is about an hour north. So I go up and down often, and it's honestly so nice to kind of get out of the Boulder bubble and have like a little bit of a different atmosphere at times too.
So Boulder is like the mecca of kind of triathlon, I would say, in kind of North America over here. Are there some main people some big names that you train with on an ongoing basis that are Boulder based there?
Well, my secret mission is to get Rinny out of retirement. I just texted her yesterday. I was like, "Hi, can you come out of retirement and ride all my bike workouts with me?" And she said, nope, I'm okay. Maybe next year. And I said, all right, I'll probably be doing triathlon next year, so I'll take you up on that. But I don't have a training group right now. So I'm kind of solo, but I do a lot of training with Leslie Smith, other RTS teammate, and Rachel Olson, one of my good friends who lives like a mile up the road with me, even though I can't keep up with it. We're supposed to swim after this. And I'm like, well, swimming together is we use that term very lightly. I'm like, she's lapping me on warm up. So, but yes, whoever will train with me, I'm always open to train with different people.
I love it. And I always see out on like the mountain bikes and stuff too. So I guess you got a whole community of mountain bikers too.
I'm trying to build that community, or at least I'm trying to like find the good mountain bikers to let me ride with them so I can learn from them. Very, very selfishly.
I love it. So one question we always like to ask is kind of what's on the training schedule for you today?
Oh, great question. I just did a 60-minute run this morning with a couple of like 30-second pickups in it. Other than that, pretty chill. This was, I've been struggling after my race last weekend. I feel like a grandma. I'm like, everyone's like racing an Ironman, and then a week later they're racing like another half. And I'm like, I did a duathlon Olympic distance and I feel so like, I'm like still sore. So easing back into run intensity, and then I'll do a swim this afternoon with a lift. Yeah.
Nice. So what's kind of training looking like for you these days? Do you have a kind of a race coming up? I think I saw some of them on your calendar, but what's up next for you?
Yes. So my next race, or 2 races, hopefully, will be Xterra Oak Mountain outside of Birmingham, Alabama. That'll be my first Xterra, and I think it's on May 20th is the standard distance. And then the next day, if I do okay enough in that race on Saturday, I get to do the short track series in Xterra, which is like 40 minutes, like full gas, all out. I have no idea what to expect, and I have no idea if I'm any good at Xterra, so I might hate it.
Only
But I'm
one way to
excited.
find out, I guess.
I know, right?
And something tells me if you like triathlon and you're all in on mountain biking, you're going to love it. And I actually think you're going to be pretty great at it.
Oh, thank you. I'm gonna think about that on the start line. I was like,
Yeah.
Jess said I was gonna be great at it, so
Um,
yeah, I'm excited.
And speaking of racing, we're coming off a huge weekend in kind of the triathlon world with the big PTO race, and then St. George, a bunch of RTS people looped in on some of those. What were kind of some of your thoughts on those races and some of the podiums or podium misses and stuff there? What's your take on maybe the biggest weekend of triathlon so far of the year?
Yeah, I mean, all I know is everyone is really freaking fast now. I feel like the days are over of going and trying to like cherry pick any big races. Like those are long gone for professionals. It was really exciting, and I was very much happy to be still sitting on my couch following the races last weekend opposed to actually doing the races. But yeah, Ibiza, it looked like a really pretty course. I know there wasn't great coverage on like the camera with the women's race, at least on the bike portion. But God, you have to be to do well at those big races, you have to be such a freaking fast runner. That's what I'm like, I'm taking away from this. Like, and Tamara, to having come away with 6th place in a world-class field with some of those ladies is amazing. I know she's very much capable of doing even more. I mean, in my opinion, I think she can be a world champion in the next couple of years, which is insane because I mean, she's one of the best runners, in triathlon, but also like just runners. She's amazing. So that was pretty awesome to see. And then in St. George, I personally hate that course so much. I hate it so much. Nick Chase has always asked me, he's like, well, are you going to do St. George? We're going to do a training camp in St. George. And I don't know why, I've never had a good race experience there. And so I'm just like, when are we moving out of St. George? We go someplace else. But I know everyone loves it. So it was really exciting to see racing on that side. And my friend Jeannie Metzler having come back, from a really tough year last year, and to win and just to be happy, it makes me so excited to see her back on top of the podium. And then obviously Jackson getting 3rd, like, let's go. And I'm happy for Sam Long to come away with a win as well, as they have a little baby on the way. They're going to need some extra diaper money.
Yeah, I would say. I'm going to lean in on the St. George comment. Would you say it's your least favorite course that you've raced?
Probably yes. I don't know.
And to put a positive spin on, what is your favorite course that you've raced?
I love Santa Cruz. I don't think I've only raced there once, but it's just so pretty. You're right next to the ocean, and it's California. I love California. Sea level, that's always great. And I would say Victoria 70.3. I raced that my rookie year in 2018, and I had a terrible race, but it was unbelievably beautiful there. So those are my top 2.
Well, you're not lying. You do love the West Coast. I don't blame
I
you.
know. I've heard great things about Mont Tremblant, so I hope one day I can get out there and appreciate, the upper East Coast a little more.
That is a beautiful area. I feel like you could get on board with the East if you come to Tremblant sometime.
Yeah, in the summer. I'm out for the winter.
I don't blame you.
Yeah, man, what a great weekend of racing that was. I was up at I guess our time, 4 a.m, like just watching PTO. I woke up, go to the washroom, like maybe I'll just throw it on for a couple minutes. And then I'm like, oh no, it's 4 a.m. and I'm watching this. But man, even I think you know Jason West pretty well too. And holy, he's running 3-minute Ks there off the bike. It is just wild.
I mean, I would say Jason West has had the most impressive start to the season out of any professional so far this year. I mean, he's it's won at Miami. He won in St. Anthony's, got what did he finish?
2nd in Oceanside, and then
second in Oceanside, and then 5th, 6th. Where was he?
I think he was somewhere around there, 5th or 6th.
Yeah.
That sounds about right. But yeah, running that and coming 5th, that caliber of field is just nuts.
Yeah. So he's definitely one to watch, and I know he's I like Jason because he's very much like non-media. He hates social media. He hates all the bells and whistles around that stuff. He just wants to train and race. And it's just very I don't know. It's kind of noble in a way to
Yeah,
just
he's been it's been cool though. He's been sharing a lot more of his stuff. Like I find a lot of the pros are more and more these days. It was kind of a little hidden before, and now everybody's like, here's my Strava numbers, here's all my stuff. Like he's posting that up right on his social media, which is kind of cool too.
Yeah. It is. It's nice to see him come out of his like little cave or whatever. I'm so bad at sayings. That's the wrong saying.
We got the point. We got the point. And I think it was really cool in the PTO race, Max Newman who won. Like he is, I feel in this day and age, a lot of the pros are like, we really need like social media. And it's like such a huge tool. He's a guy who's like doesn't do anything on his social media. What are your kind of thoughts around like social media and its kind of essential piece for a pro?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's so many ways to look at social media, and I think it's hard for some of the shyer athletes or athletes that aren't they don't like, they're not as extroverted, to kind of maintain that social media presence, or it could be just more exhausting for them. And I think for all pro athletes, social media in some aspect is very exhausting, because if you're having a bad day or a bad week, or you've been sick or you're having an injury, it's hard to just want to go on social media and be like, yeah, this is what's going on. Life is great. This is, because sometimes you have those really sucky times and you're like, I don't want to share everything with the world. So I think you have to have some sort of presence to be a professional athlete, or I mean, you don't have to, but you're also missing some income outlets if you don't put it out there. And that's kind of just where we're at. We're entertainers at the end of the day, and that's kind of the direction PTO is trying to take it. Is that we are entertainers, professional athletes are. So in some aspect, we have to entertain.
And so how do you manage that? So you have a bad day, or like, you have a race you're not happy with. How do you manage your energy and sort of your, I would say your emotional state of needing to be an entertainer when you aren't proud or happy or excited or joyful? Like how do you deal with that?
That's a great question. And I could probably answer it 5 different ways, depending on if you catch me on a bad day. I'm like this, sometimes I handle it this way and sometimes I handle it this way. But I think at the end of the day, what I always come back to is that we're all human. And I think especially non-professional athletes, like the huge age group population, they have bad days all the time, just like professional athletes. So normalizing those ups and downs and the roller coaster ride that is like the journey of athletics, I think is super important. And I think a lot of followers really appreciate the honesty and say like, hey, I am struggling. So I think for me, I'm getting better at, sometimes like sharing that, or also at the same time, like I don't have to share everything that's going on with, the world. Like, oh, I rolled my ankle, I tripped, I have a bad hangnail going on. Like nobody, some things aren't worth sharing. But I do think that by and large, sharing what you are comfortable with, usually people appreciate a lot.
Yeah, even in your Instagram title there, like you say, this is my journey, ups and downs included. I think more people need to share that too, because social media can just be this like glamorized spot too often. And man, it's tough. Like you've had, like, tell us a little bit about those like injuries and stuff you had last year, like a bunch of surgeries and stuff like that. Like tell us maybe about those injuries and kind of like how you kind of manage both the mental and the physical kind of comeback from those.
Yeah. So it was I had this awesome training camp. Like I was probably in the best bike fitness of my life. Things were heading in the right direction. Went to California, like San Diego area for about a month, and Tim and Rennie were there. Justin and Jeannie were there. Matt Hansen was there. And we just had this really great vibe going on. And I like I said, I was like, this is coming off of this camp. I feel super fit. I'm so excited for the rest of the year. And at the end, like the last like couple of days, I started getting this like lateral kind of like hip clicking on the bike. And that just kind of spiraled into like, oh, I feel okay on the bike. Oh, I don't feel okay on the bike. Oh, I just kind of like, I don't know what's going on. And then it kind of had this like medial knee issue. Fast forward a couple months, finally got my first MRI in May of my hip, and they showed a little labral tear, and which is super common. So many people have them. But we did a PRP injection, so platelet-rich plasma injection, try to help stimulate the healing. 2 months later, I was still kind of going back and forth. I was like, I still can't really ride my bike. I only feel comfortable on my mountain bike in that more upright position. So I actually ended up getting another MRI. They showed a little bit more tearing, a little bit closer image. And I talked to a surgeon. She's like, well, you've been dealing with this, for like 4 months. Like you could go surgery. And I'm like, all right, sign me up. Like I need to make a decision to move forward. So I got hip surgery August 31st last year to fix my labral tear and also get rid of some impingement on with my femur up into my acetabulum. So they shaved down that bone a little bit and they did a little psoas lengthening, which at this point I'm like, can you do the other side and like lengthen that psoas too? So got hip surgery, but fun story is that about 5 days before hip surgery, I was riding my mountain bike with my boyfriend. I took a little tumble, Supermaned off the bike, landed straight on my chest, and ended up tearing my rotator cuff and labrum, which probably didn't look good anyways from years of overhead athletics. But going into hip surgery, I was like, I don't know, whatever's wrong with my shoulder, we'll figure it out. I'll be sitting on my butt. 2 months after hip surgery, I was still having like shoulder issues. So got an MRI and they were like, yeah, your shoulders don't look great, but you could try to PT your way out of it. Or you could get surgery. And my surgeon who did my hip, she does hip, shoulders, and knees. So I said, Dr. Vidal, can you just do my shoulder? So I got that done at the beginning of November and now I'm back.
Love it. Yeah, I don't want to like you had just had an awesome result a couple weeks ago in St. Anthony's there, which I want to hop into for your big return coming up here. But before we get there, I'd love to pan back a little bit on your journey here because you talked about that you've done a bunch of overhead sports and things in the past. So what was kind of your path growing up in terms of sports, like through high school and college and ultimately to professional triathlon?
Yeah, so in high school, I played 4 years of volleyball, which I freaking loved volleyball. It's such a fun sport. I miss it so much. And I also ran indoor track all 4 years, outdoor track my last 2 years, and I played like a year of softball and a year of soccer in there as well. And ultimately, it led me to run cross country and track at a small Division III university in Indiana called DePauw University. And there I always say I was like a very mediocre conference level Division III runner. I never had any amazing results. I was injured a lot during that time. But I will say my highest finish in a conference meet was actually in the pole vault. I got 4th place, which is hilarious. Our conference was so bad at pole vault. And I remember a couple weeks before the conference meet, my college coach said, has anyone ever pole vaulted before? I said, I have like a couple times in high school. And he's like, you're in.
That is not an easy sport to just know how to do either. Like,
Yeah,
how did you learn that?
Have to know the basis of it. But yeah, it was, I don't know. So I've pole vaulted before, but I also threw the javelin in college because it's a very similar to like how you hit a volleyball. So, and that was a blast. I freaking love the javelin. It's so cool. But then ultimately, yeah, I guess that after college, I went on to coach at an NCAA small Division III university. And that's kind of when I started to dabble in triathlon, is when I was coaching collegiate cross country and track. And
So you were doing triathlon and then you moved very quickly into pro. Talk to us about what that was like, maybe your first triathlon and then the journey to becoming a pro.
I always love the first triathlon stories. The first triathlon I signed up for was 70.3, like Benton Harbor up in Michigan. And so I had never done a triathlon before that. And there was a local triathlon town or community in central Illinois where I was living. And they said, maybe you should do a triathlon before you do the 70.3. So I signed up for my first triathlon, which was a sprint distance 2 weeks before that, half Ironman. And I ended up winning, but I did all the normal like triathlon first timer things. I pinned my jersey or my bibs to like a tank top in which I like put on in transition 1 after the swim, rode with like, yeah. Rode with, like, because when you come from a running background, you like use those safety pins to pin your jersey on. There's no such thing as like a race belt. We don't use race belts. So that's what I did, which was fun. But I had a road bike through some TT bars on it, and yeah, kind of, I didn't really get the triathlon bug probably for another couple years though, until I was like, oh, I could be okay at this.
Yeah, I think you are quite okay. So when you became pro, what were some of your successes and challenges when you first changed over and began racing professionally?
That's a great question. Well, I think unless you're like Lucy Charles and some of those just amazingly talented athletes who are amazing as an age grouper, I think your first year as a pro, the rite of passage is just to get your ass handed to you. And that's what happened to me all of 2018. I just show up to a race and I'm like, what am I doing here? I should go. Like, I have a whole bunch of age group athletes still beating me. Like, why am I racing in the professional field? Um, so I wouldn't say until the end of my first year as a pro, I started to have like little glimmers of hope in there. And then I was like, okay, maybe I do belong in this field. So and now I'm just lost my train of thought.
No, I think that that's an important point though, is that, that we always celebrate, these overnight sensations. And we've had a number of people in the show who say, listen, like, I don't have natural talent. Like, this is just hard work that you're seeing on display, like consistent hard work. And it's so important to say that, you were performing at a high level, obviously in the age group, but you need to completely change what that work looks like when you go into the pro field. So what were some of the biggest challenges that you felt that you overcame that led you to that sort of breakthrough at the end of the year?
um, I think I just started more focusing on the process rather than the outcomes, because I was very, very outcome focused. Right when I started, I said, I have to put up these results to kind of prove to myself and to everyone else that I belonged in this field. And that's such a bad way of thinking about it, because you set yourself up for success or up for failure. And I made a big kind of career jump when I left collegiate coaching to move to Boulder, Colorado, and was like, I'm going to be a professional triathlete. I'm going all in. And to not have success right away, it kind of definitely hurts your ego, because it makes you question this great career that you kind of put on hold. You're like, should I have done that? I had something great going on in my life. Why would I give that up to do something that I'm not very good at? So I think that mentality was not the right one to have going into a professional athletic world. But I think I just started to have a little bit more fun. And I just started to embrace really like the race weekends. Like, I love race weekends because you get to see your friends from all over the world and they're all in one place and you're all excited and you're all kind of more rested. So it's just, I don't know, like that's the part of triathlon that I really like, is it brings so many people together, and those experiences are more meaningful to me than the race itself.
So talking about recent races, you just had a nice start to your year here at St. Anthony's. Tell us, were you expecting that result? And maybe give us a run through of the day. Your race recap was great, but I'd love to hear it in person here.
Yeah. No, I was not expecting to finish third. Absolutely not. Uh, Going into the race, I just started working with a new coach, Matt Lieto, like April 1st, because I had been coaching myself for the past, ever since I got hip surgery. And I was just kind of like, oh, I'm going to do what I feel today. And I was talking to Matt at the end of March, and I was like, I think I'm going to do St. Anthony's. And I just kind of want some direction. He's like, yeah, I think more so you just need someone to save you from yourself, because you'll probably just start to go like, well, I got to do all these workouts, all this workouts, and just kind of panic train. And so he kind of kept me level headed going into the race. And we talked the night before the race on the phone after we had found out that it was turned into a duathlon, so run, bike, run. And he I think he said something along the lines of, you're talking to like the duathlon national champion or something. And because I think it was either nationals or worlds or something that he had won. He's like, it's the most painful race I've done in my life. And
Have fun.
right. And he essentially said, he's like, just don't be a dumbass. Like, the first run, he's like, you're not trying to prove anything. You haven't been running these speeds, and it's going to hurt way more if you run as fast as you can that first run segment and get on your bike. You're going to be absolutely shot. So I, for once in my life, listened to what the coaching advice and actually carried out the plan and held back on that first run. So I think I came into transition third to last. And I remember starting at the beginning of the run, I was like kind of chatting with Rachel Olson. I'm still running like 5:55 miles, which I've run 3 miles under 7-minute pace this past year, let alone I shouldn't be running one under 6-minute pace right now. Like I don't have the fitness for that. But I remember chatting with her at the beginning, just like, all right, we got to be smart. We got to be smart. And so yeah, came into transition one, only 30 plus seconds down from the front of the race, had a really good T1, passed some girls right away. And then getting on the bike, I just kind of went into chase mode, and I don't really have the workouts or that confidence on the bike to say like I can ride X watts, or this is like I'm ready to get to work. It was just kind of like I don't know what I can do, but I have confidence in myself on the bike, and kind of just relied on that. I've had great bikes in the past. So I just was like, all right, we're just gonna see how many people we can chase. This might be dumb, but I like riding my bike fast. So ended up working my way all the way up to second place behind Paula. I should really study race courses more. Like that's not my strength. But so I took a little wrong turn there and got back on my bike really quickly, came into transition two, maybe like a few seconds behind Paula. And I was like, hell yeah, this is great. This is exceeding all expectations on the day. And Paula like gave me a little like pat on the back as she ran by me in transition two and was like, great job. I was like, we'll see you at the finish. Like, I'm not going to be running with you. So, and then just got on the run and kind of just kept telling myself, run tall, quick steps, like stay within yourself. And I looked at my first split on my watch and it was like 6:21. And I was like, I'm not going to look at my watch anymore, because if it starts going up, I'm not going to be happy. And I just focus on just running tall and doing what I can control. And I can't control with what anyone else in the race does. So I got to the turnaround. It's just an out and back race. And I saw that Haley Chura was 90 seconds behind me, and Haley's a great runner. She's very capable of running me down over the next 5K. And that's kind of what I was anticipating. I was like, she's coming, but there's nothing I can do. I can just keep doing what I'm doing. And, with like a quarter mile to go, I like look back and I don't see her bright colors. And I'm like, oh my God, I think I might get third. So so I got third, finished, was bawling at the finish line. And my teammates, Mark Dubrick, and one of our social media amazing team leaders, Beth Shaw, was there. And I was just like uncontrollably crying. And the volunteers were like, oh my God, are you okay? And they're like, no, it's tears of joy. So it was just an amazing experience, and very pleasantly surprised.
Yeah, you could tell on your social media how much that one meant to you. So that's a huge start to the year, a nice little bounce back from dealing with a lot of injuries in 2022. So congrats, huge
Yeah.
start. Let's go.
Amazing.
Thank you so much.
And going back to the coaching comment there, like you do some coaching yourself, but I'd love to hear like what went into you choosing Matt Lieto as your coach.
Yeah. So do you guys remember Kinsey Lane? I don't know if you've heard that name. Yeah.
Yep,
So Kinsey, she's now gone on to, I think she coaches at Cal Poly women's triathlon down there, NCAA triathlon. And I remember talking to her, like getting to know her a little bit at Boulder 70.3, and maybe 2019, we were talking on the way to the swim start. And in 2021, I had posted on Instagram, like, I'm looking for coaching recommendations. And she was like, you need to talk to Matt Lieto. Like, he's amazing. He's coached me. He's the best, like very chill, very laid back. And I actually talked to him in like the beginning of summer in 2021. We had an amazing conversation. I was like, this dude is so cool. But at the same time, I actually talked to the coach, Julie Dibben, who I ended up going with. And I freaking love Julie. Like, she's amazing. And what really intrigued me with her was that she had her Xterra background. Well, actually, I shouldn't say that, because I wasn't really into mountain biking at that point, but she's just like this badass cyclist, like obviously so many accolades to her name. And I just loved her demeanor. And I love the fact that there was a local pro group in town. I was going to see her multiple times a week. So I ended up going with Julie, and she coached me for about a year and a half until I started getting all these surgeries. And when I started looking for another coach again, I kind of decided that that group while I love everyone in the group, for someone with my personality, it's very easy to get carried away with like doing what everyone else is doing. Like, oh, if everyone else is like pushing this hard and they're always going this hard, like we're gonna warm up this hard. That's gonna be great for me. And I just kind of got to this point where I was let myself do more of what everyone else was doing opposed to like kind of what I needed. And I didn't have that maturity to say like, oh no, I can't warm up at 7:30 pace. Like I need to warm up at like 9-minute pace type of maturity. So I decided that the group dynamic, it wasn't fitting for me. I was always just kind of getting hurt and whatnot. So stepped away from Julie, even though I still try to talk her into mountain biking with me. I'm like, come shred. I still freaking love her. But yeah, so that kind of led me into reaching out to Matt again, because I had really enjoyed our conversation that, like 2 years ago. And he said, yeah, let's do it. And so, yeah, we're still getting to know each other. It's only been a month, but I told him I would be a pain in his ass. So here we are.
Well, good on you for like identifying that in the like group dynamic part. I think that's a great lesson for people, as we have like a huge training group here in our area that we run. And that's one of the biggest things I see is like people just getting like the blinders on and are like, if I run with the group in front of me all the time, like I'm going to be so much better. And it's like, you got to take a step back and do what is best for you.
Yes. And it's so hard to know that, because I think if you threw me in a group workout tomorrow, I'd be like this, I'd go back to the same mentality. Yeah. So having that kind of awareness is super important, but it's also learned. I had to learn that.
Yeah, I know. It's like, it's tough for people to wrap their mind around, that taking the patient approach and actually staying within yourself is you're eventually going to start to bounce up groups, but you got to take that time to actually step back and be honest with yourself.
Oh yes, absolutely.
So you've mentioned mountain biking a couple times. When did you start that sport? And also, speaking of your coach, how do you fit that into triathlon training?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I think a boyfriend I was dating back in 2020, he like kind of wheeled and dealed bikes all the time. And he's like, Lisa, we got this like $500 bike for you. Like we're gonna start mountain biking. And I would say one of the worst things you can do, in my opinion, is learn to mountain bike from your significant other who is way better than you. It just ends in like arguments and tears. So I would say that I got my first mountain bike in 2020 and rode it like strictly on dirt roads. I would not go on any mountain bike trails or anything. But I would say that last summer is kind of really when I started to get more into mountain biking, because I couldn't ride my TT bike or any other bike because it would bother my hip, but it would feel good on the mountain bike would feel good on my hip. So that's the only bike I rode for about 4 months. And just, took a couple spills during that time, as I think it's a rite of passage to learn some mountain biking. But Matt is super awesome because he comes, he's really into gravel riding, and he does mountain biking. He's done Xterra, he's done gravel races. And I don't know, you can gain so much fitness just from riding. So some days, like this week, I have a 3-hour endurance mountain bike ride on Wednesday. And then on Saturday, I have a 4-hour endurance ride on my TT bike. So it's, to be honest, I like it way better to have the options. And I think it's way more engaging. And I do think that a lot of the mountain bike skills that I learned have made me a much better bike handler on the road.
And what mountain bike skill do you have that you're most proud of?
Oh, I don't know. I don't know if I have actually any like real skills, but I can't do a wheelie. We have this great bike park at Valmont in Boulder where there's like 4-year-olds that are like sending it. And then there's me. But there's the kind of this cool like drop thing that it's like a drop. And then there's maybe like a 2-foot gap, and I can like go over that without crashing.
I mean, that's pretty cool.
I mean, I think so, but then I look at replay videos of it and I'm like, oh, this looks pretty lame.
I mean, we'll be looking for it on social media soon, just saying.
Yeah.
But,
Yes.
for most triathletes, that is like an extraordinary feat, because, I mean, a lot of triathletes are still learning to like turn properly in the tight U-turn. So I'm sure it would help with your bike handling skills in general.
Yes. Oh, absolutely. Like the St. Anthony's bike was crazy windy. And so I swear, like, just like being more confident in my skills around some of those turns. I think there were 26 turns in the race. I was like, oh, I feel like I'm like making up a couple seconds on, some of the other riders, just, taking a better angle or doing it a little quicker.
Well, I feel like mountain biking builds up a lot of your confidence. And I think like bike handling confidence goes so far between like a really just pure fast Watts rider and someone who actually has that technical ability. So I mean, you're not the first triathlete who says that they mountain bike. So I think it's a cool addition. And it also fun plays like an important element of that as well.
Yeah, no, it's so fun. And everyone I talk to that's a triathlete, I say, like, you should get a mountain bike. It's so fun. They're like, I don't want to break every bone in my body.
I mean, it is the trade-off, but it
Yeah.
sounds like fun is an important part of your training. What are some of your other training non-negotiables?
I don't know if I have any. This isn't really a non-negotiable, but I hate riding my bike. I hate riding my bike inside. I don't think
Okay.
bikes are meant to be ridden inside. Um, I will do it if it's blizzarding outside, or if it's like under 20 degrees Fahrenheit, or if it's 60-mile-per-hour winds. But I have been known to be one of those dumb athletes who goes out in those crazy winds, and tries to do my bike workout, usually not well. But I just hate riding my bike inside. So if a coach is like, all right, it's sunny and 75 and you have this trainer workout, I'm going to say, absolutely not. I'm not doing this inside. So, yeah, I value riding outside so much, and it makes me way happier. So yeah, I would say that's kind of like my only like non-negotiable.
Amazing. And then recently we saw that you posted something about Inside Tracker. Just making a shift in terms of like the fun and the actual training, things that you do for your overall well-being. When did you start implementing that, and what are some of the biggest things that it's given you?
Yeah, so I did my first test with Inside Tracker in the summer of 2020, because I was starting to feel like kind of tired all the time. And I just said, I've worked with enough runners in my past that my ferritin or iron levels are probably a little low. So I got that checked, and they indeed were low. So kind of gave me like, all right, Lisa, let's get back on the taking iron every day and getting those levels back up, and focusing it more on eating, iron rich foods and following some of those guidelines. But I think as endurance athletes, like what we do, yes, it is healthy. Like the lifestyle is healthy to an extent. I think we like step over that like healthy line. Like, I think we like leap over it. So I think in terms of making sure that we are healthy, it's important to make sure we're fueling ourselves properly, we're getting enough nutrients, because we burn through those things so quickly. So I think just if I could have every athlete that I coach get their blood tested once a quarter, like once every 3 months, that would be like the best case scenario, because you can start to pick up things before they happen, which is awesome. And that's kind of the goal for me for Inside Tracker. If I see like my iron's dropping or my vitamin D's dropping, I can get on top of it before it becomes like a real problem. And so just kind of more of a proactive approach, opposed to a why I'm so tired, what's going on, and like realize that you've been in a hole for months.
And I think you raise an important point that it's like what we do is healthy to a point, but it's so extreme that I find that it's like in moderation, it's probably good. But I'd love to know, what are some of the other things that you do in your day to day to make sure that you aren't like belly flopping over that line to where you're prioritizing performance and you're not getting your health in line?
Yeah, I've belly flopped over that line multiple times. So I'm still learning a little bit, but I think I've never been, those people that are just very in tune with their bodies, that they wake up and they're like, oh, my back is a little sore, I should just stretch and roll that. I like jump out of bed and I'm like, all right, here we go. Like, this feels weird, but like, we're just going to keep charging forward. So I'm trying to slow down and do more of these like internal checks with myself every day. Like, how do I feel? How's my energy level? Do I have any like little niggles coming up, or why is my shoulder sore? And start to put puzzle pieces together, like I said, kind of before they become like a real problem. For example, running after St. Anthony's, I tried to run on the Wednesday after the race. I made it 90 seconds and I was like, ooh, this feels like my calves are just not going to take it. Whereas 2 years ago, Lisa would have been like, I might feel better in 40 minutes. Like we'll just push through the run, and then that might set me back 2 weeks because I strained my calf type of thing. So just trying to be a little bit more of a mature athlete, which is hard for me.
Do you find that coaching others helps you with that?
I do, because I can tell them to back off, and if they're tired, and if I don't follow that advice for myself, I feel like it's like a hypocritical thing. So in some ways, that does make me think more about my performance and how I'm feeling is to check in with them. So um, I would say that coaching has helped me become a little bit smarter as well.
And how long have you been coaching?
I started my coaching business last March. And then it was just, I think I was coaching maybe like 3 athletes at the time. And then I got laid off from my full-time job in July, which kind of made me pivot and shift to like more of a focus on like, oh, let's try to coach more people and make this more of like a full-time thing. And it's still very new to me, and I'm still trying to kind of find ways to grow and kind of get the word out there, but also with at the same time being very picky with who I work with, because I think there's a specific type of athlete that I would work well with, and I wouldn't work well with some other, type of athletes. And I think that goes back to finding, like, even as a professional triathlete, finding that really good coach athlete fit is so important.
So, like, in terms of when you cast your net, I was assuming like you're not just going to coach everyone. So, describe like what are the types of athletes that you prefer to coach?
Yeah. So I really like beginners or people who have been doing the sport for a long time that just want to get better and improve. They can have goals. They can want to go to the world championships, or they can want to finish top 10 in their age group. Whatever that is awesome. But I want people that by and large want to enjoy the sport and want to do it for a long time. And that's important to me because I think in the sport of triathlon, you see a lot of people come and go. They're like, I did one Ironman and now I'm never doing it again. So for me, I want to find people who want to kind of do this for a long time, whether it's running races or triathlons or Ironmans, because I think it's so fun and the community aspect is really fun. So I do focus on people who are kind of like to enjoy it a little bit more, and just kind of have fun, to be honest. It's not their life. They're not making money from it. So just kind of keep that into perspective.
And what would you say your coaching philosophy is, or the biggest lessons that you teach your athletes are?
Um, I think the biggest lesson is that there's a lot of different ways to get from point A to point B. And a lot of people think that there's one way, especially in the like world of triathlon, like, oh, I have to do 4 by 20 minutes at tempo every weekend type of thing. It's, well, you can do a running race, or you can get on your mountain bike, or you can go do this trail run with your friends. And I think just kind of opening athletes' minds to different ways of doing things can accomplish, the same goals.
And I know that coaching isn't the only thing that you do. So you're a professional triathlete, you're a coach, and you also do work with the Barracuda Foundation. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Actually, they sponsor me, which is amazing. So they and this is kind of like a fun story, but also very like emotional story. Griffin Davis, he founded the Barracuda Foundation back in 2018, I believe. And I actually went to college with Griffin our freshman year. Then he transferred to University of Cincinnati, and he was a swimmer. But we had our freshman year like seminar class together, and he was such a funny, goofy guy, very caring, very extroverted, outgoing. And I had received this email from him back in 2019 saying, like, I found your email, or was looking through USA Triathlon results. I saw your name, I recognized it. I want to help you financially. I have this organization, this foundation that I founded last year, and we help support women, minorities, and adaptive sport athletes. And he's like, we want to help you financially. And after, like, as a second year professional triathletes who has no results to sit on from the previous year, who has no financial sponsorships, I literally remember like crying in my kitchen saying, like, someone wants to help me support this goal and this dream of mine. Like, that's insane. Since then, Griffin he passed away in March of 2019, which is super, super awful and super sad because he's such an amazing giving person. To have that forward thinking to say, how do I give back? That's not selfishly. Like, I just can't believe he still started this organization. And since then, his parents have taken it over and his sister, and they've been running with it, and they continue to support me every year. And yeah, they're such this giving, loving family who just want what's best for you and want to help give back to athletics and kind of keep honoring Griffin's name, which is super, super special.
Amazing. And so can you tell us a little bit more about the foundation and how people can kind of support it for our listeners if they're looking to support it all?
Yeah, so you can just go on to, I think it's just like Barracuda. If you Google Barracuda Foundation, or it's barracudafoundation.org, I don't remember what the exact URL is. You can learn more about the athletes that are supported through the Barracuda Foundation. I mean, there's Andrew Kirka, who's an Olympic Paralympic gold medalist, which is unbelievable, who's supported by the Barracuda Foundation. But so you can learn more a little bit about the athletes there and kind of the whole story behind why it's called the Barracuda Foundation. They have a cool little blurb that kind of tells this story about a barracuda fish. So you can check that out there and donate if your heart desires.
Nice. Cool. We'll link to that in our show notes there as well. Cool. Changing gears for a couple final topics to kind of discuss with you. First, I'd love to chat with you about the about RTS. Like, first of all, when did you join their team, and why did you choose their team, and what have been some of the amazing pieces of being part of that awesome squad?
Yeah. So this is the third year of RTS, but this is my second year of being on the team, even though I didn't really do much last year. I was part of all the chats and following all the excitement of what everyone else was doing. But I knew Leslie Smith was on the team, and we started riding together a little bit more at the end of 2021. And she's like, I think like we're losing a couple like of the girl members. Like, I told Nick that you'd be a great fit, and like, you should join the team. So Nick Chase gave me a call and was like, do you want to do it? Like, this sounds awesome. And it's really grown and evolved over the past, like, from even last year to this year. Like, even on this phone call, we have the WhatsApp chat like constantly going, whether it's more of like the work focused things, like what we need for social media or sponsors, or, some of like the ins and outs, or if it's just like, hey, did you guys see this? Did you see that? It's grown a lot, and it's very, I don't know, it's nice to have when you go to races and have support from teammates, because triathlon is such an individual event. I know there's lots of teams and clubs out there, but to have just 8 professionals on the pro team, and then we have a developmental squad and an age group squad, but to have that support and is kind of special. And just knowing that, like, even if it's not a great day for you, like Nick and Leslie didn't have great days at St. George 70.3, they are still super excited for everyone who did well. And I don't know, it's just kind of, you have this safety net of support with you. So it's just, I don't know, it's a lot of fun and a lot of different personalities. Like, we're all pretty different. So I would say like Nick and I and probably Mark are probably the most obnoxious ones on the team. We're loud and like outgoing. And then you have like quieter people, like Garrick's quieter and Tamara's quieter. And you just have, I don't know, a lot of different backgrounds. So it's really fun to get to know each other more too. And I don't know, it's fun. Like last weekend I wasn't racing, but we had so many of the team racing, and it's kind of makes me feel a little more invested as well.
Yeah, I can see you guys are all hyped at the team's results, and man, some huge results to start the year.
Absolutely.
Right? I know. That's why I'm like, guys, maybe we should slow down a little. We got to save it for like September.
Yeah, exactly. All the world champs when they come in late year, then you guys will
Right?
just be peaking by then. I love it.
Yeah.
All right, a big hot topic in triathlon recently that I'd love to get your take on is the doping scandal stuff that's come out recently. Kind of what was your reaction when that first came out?
I first found out right before I went swimming, and I just remember being like pissed. I was angry. I swam angry that whole swim, just because I I don't know. And I feel very passionate about people who draft too. I'm a big believer that there should be fines if you get like an intentional drafting penalty. I'm like, fine them. It'll make people stop doing it. So to have someone not only they literally like hop, skipped, and jumped over the line of like what might be gray, just like intentionally take EPO with the thought of like, I'm going to try and get away with this, and I'm going to try to win this money and be the best in the world. It just made me angry at first, and then it kind of made me sad to think that like that might be more prevalent in our sport than I had originally thought. So I'm trying not to think about it as much, in the sense that like when I go to the starting lines, I don't want in my head to look at my competitors and say, hey, like, are they a doping or are they clean? I don't want that, because I want to believe that more people are clean, but I do think that more people are doping than we think. And I think it's really shitty.
Yeah, for sure. And what are some things you think the sport can continue to implement to move forward and make sure that these are get nabbed before they win things like $100,000 PTO type of
Right?
race?
Well, Jackson Laundry put out that great YouTube video. I don't know if you watched it,
Yeah, it's
but
great.
saying, and we talked about this too, is that there need to be more severe consequences. Like whenever you test positive for a drug, you should have to back pay the past 12 months or however many months, to be decided, of prize money. So there's just like, so even if Colin wasn't doping during that 100K, like he'd still have to pay that back because it was within that 12-month period. I don't know, just more things to deter people away. And then obviously more testing. I've never been tested as a professional athlete. I've been tested once as an age group athlete at the like age group nationals, but I've never been tested before. Like I don't think people are like, oh yeah, Lisa's doping. Look at her performances, all the wins she has. No one's showing up and at my door. But just the fact that this is my 6th year racing, and I've never been tested as a professional, like there needs to be more. So just having more funds to do that, I think is better. Will hopefully catch more people.
Yeah, there's been some interesting solutions out there of like Lionel being like, well, take 20% out of the prize money of the race and put that back into testing. I love all the creative ideas that are coming out on it. Like, it's such a good conversation to be had because something's
Right.
got to give at some point.
Yeah. So it's just like I hope this was a big eye-opening experience for people, saying that like if they were doping out there, maybe they're gonna think again about continuing to dope. And just that the whole sport is cracking down a little bit more. So I think just talking about it is huge, and kind of making those steps forward to make the sport a little bit cleaner.
And you raised something earlier that we talked about on our episode of doping what's so sad too is it makes all of the professionals question each other. Like all of you have this great relationship and your competitors on the race course, but you have some of these really great trusting and genuine real friendships and relationships outside of triathlon. And to have something like that sort of fracture that, like it's so damaging to I would say competition, to be able to not have that trust in your competitors, because it comes down to being able to respect them as well.
Oh, 100%. And I think with any relationship, it's built around trust. And when you get rid of trust, where's the relationship? Like, what does the relationship stand on? So I think I can't imagine being close to Colin or being one of his close friends or being Lionel, who had trained with him. I can't imagine what's going through Lionel's head, because if that ever happened with someone I was really close with, I would be questioning everything. So I only feel for people that were really close with Colin to have to kind of come to those terms.
I think we saw what was going through Lionel's head from his Instagram videos and stuff. Holy, yeah, emotional
Right?
stuff.
Yeah, I know. I can't imagine. I'm sure even like that's was still taxing him in St. George as well.
Yeah.
Like he was talking about how tired he was before the race.
Could be a new baby as well.
Yeah.
Probably not
Yeah, I
helping
know,
his
right?
cause.
He like talks about it like you're still a new dad. It's not your baby's under a year old.
A few other things going on. Final question for you today, Lisa. Who's your endurance icon?
That's a great question. I think, and I had to write this down for one of the Xterra questionnaires coming up, and I put 2 names, and I put Rinny and I put Kat Matthews. And Rinny, because I've really gotten close with her over the past couple of years, and maybe it's because I was one of her training partners at the tail end of her career, where she was way more laid back and more family focused, but she just had so much better of a perspective on the sport than a lot of other athletes. and kind of like, my family comes first, my kids come first, and like, this is awesome. I've accomplished a lot in the sport, but what else is there to accomplish? I've already won world championships. Like, how many more like should I want to win? And I think she just exited the sport very gracefully. And I hope one day that like when I'm ready to retire, I can take that transformation, opposed to like just trying to hang on until I'm like 70 years old. And, I don't want that for myself. I want to be able to ride my e-bike to get coffee.
I mean, sounds like a perfect dream.
Right? I mean, it's just fine. You still get to enjoy being outside and get a little exercise in. But then Kat Matthews, like I've gotten to know Kat Matthews over the past couple of years. And what brought us together was that Ironman VR. Remember when COVID was on, and we were like partners or something, and I got to know her and I was like, who is this chick? Like, she's really freaking fast. And then at that 2020 PTO championships, I got to hang out with her and her husband Mark quite a bit that kind of week leading up to the race. And I just have so much respect for her and how she handles herself, and how she obviously overcame like a horrific car crash, like whole drama accident around that, but just how she just handles herself very gracefully, and obviously very talented, but is still very down to earth. So she's someone I look up to and really respect in the sport as well.
Amazing. And for people listening who want to follow your journey, where's the best place to do that?
Probably Instagram, the world of social media, at Lisa Becharas. Super. I think there's only one other Lisa Becharas in the world. So
to us, there's only one.
Okay.
Amazing. Well, Lisa, thank you so much for joining us. This was a total blast.
Thank you so much for having me. It was great even though I didn't get to ask you guys questions, we should have like a reverse role next time.
We'll have to invite you back for that one.
Yes. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for having me. I really, really appreciate it.
Wow. How great was that? I always learn so much from these endurance icons. If you enjoyed the podcast as well, please consider liking us across social media, subscribing to us on YouTube, or giving us a 5-star rating on wherever you listen to your podcasts. We appreciate you and your support so much. We wish you happy training, and we'll see you back next week.